I manifest positivity. I see the light in you and I feel it in me. Life doesn't come with a guarantee, only the guarantee that it will end indeed. So all those things, I mean this, I feel it. It's from the depth of my soul.
Welcome to
And
Unsentimental Letters, a literary podcast where writers join me, Edwin Canizalez, to discuss their poems, songs, essays, and literary pieces they built out of real life. Then read them aloud with me. This is part honest conversation, part live performance, the work and the stories behind it all. Zoe Mazah brings a different perspective altogether. She's a Liberian German singer and songwriter, classically trained, working in roots reggae and soul, based in Munich. Work built from real life, performed without the protections of distance or ornament. Join me and Zoe as we sit down and talk about the creative process and so much more.
I've always been what I call a professional fan. I play drums, and my mom will say, "Oh, just take more lessons and you'll be good." And I said, "No, no, mom, I'll be better. I'll never be good. I know what good looks like, and it looks like you, Zoe." And so I'm really excited that you are here with me. For people like me who really love music, that is just amazing because I could spend 2 days just talking about two-tone ska alone. So when I see people who can create such beautiful music and have the autonomy and the freedom to play with different styles, even in the same space, it is just a beautiful thing to not to hear, to experience. So I wanted to just start by maybe talking a bit about background because it's super interesting. So if you can tell us a little bit, and then I probably have a million questions about it myself. But tell us a little bit about your background and like you're in Germany, but then you're a citizen of the world. You're not German.
thank you so much for having me, Edwin. And you are right, I really am a citizen of the world, also as not only because my biracial background, I've been moving a lot, and I also love to travel a lot. I really kind of feel stuck when I'm for too long in one space. I always love to come back, but I also very much need this kind of movement. It opens my mind, and often I have the feeling that I just need a physical um, change of scenario to also refresh my point of view to the world, to my art, to my living and being, to my creation. And as this is all I do, I am a full-time artist. Um, I'm circling around all those things the whole time. I practice, I do my morning pages. This means I'm sitting there and I'm writing. Those of you who know me, it's like mostly this is already starting like 4:30 or 5 o'clock today. I cannot tell you why. Maybe because I'm still connected to the dream world and nothing else is bothering my mind. There is no shopping list. And I don't think about the laundry. It's just me being there and so connected to how I feel that I can just easily put it in words. Um, I studied classical piano. I graduated with this. I got a diploma in piano, classical piano, and then I studied jazz vocals, and also I was just very lucky. I got a record deal, but I spent my whole youth and time at the piano. This I found home in those classical pieces because I felt growing up as a person of color in Germany, I was mm, such a standing out person wherever I went, even as a child, right? People would stare at me and look and point fingers and stuff like this. And when I learned to play Chopin and all those people, they all have been immigrants, and I felt their sadness and their longing for home in the music. So I felt this is a place where I belong to. I felt connected to them. And I also learned that from a feeling inside that is not such a pleasant feeling from sadness or frustration, if you transform it into music, into arts, if you find expression, it could transform and become something beautiful. And I think this was maybe one of the biggest realizations I had. And I was about 11 when I had this. And moving on, this never left me. Even today, everything is there, it's just flowing through. And I think over the years now, I just have a habit of creating. I do have this YouTube channel where it's like Zoe Mazah on YouTube. And I have that's like a live podcast where I speak about creative process. And the thing there, I began to do that because I always think people just get a finished product. As you said, they don't know how much life happens behind the finished product, how much I have to go through, how much I have to feel, think, and transform to conclude then in a song. If it's a song or a written piece, I don't actually make a big difference. It's just like for me, it feels like drawing in blue and then adding some red. It's like just, it's almost the same. I am surprised it feels so much the same. But I think it's I mean, I like to have a glance behind the curtain of someone's mind. And I felt it's very important nowadays where arts in general, and especially music, is so easy to consume, to open up more, to make people really feel and understand and understand um, that there is so much more to music than just be there looking cute and then perform like a playback something. You have to practice. I think I spent more hours sitting on my piano, uh, on this chair you have at the piano. I think I spent more hours there than I've been sitting anywhere else.
There's the nature piece of it, right? There's the natural talent, but there's the nurture of it. And you were a proper musician, right? And piano and classical music, but then you had all this other world of that you can express, you know, with what you do now. And but it shows the difference, and the experience of consuming music nowadays has changed drastically from when I grew up listening. I mean, I don't know, you can tell, but like this is, I have a record collection problem. I have a lot of, I love records.
Oh, do
Yeah.
you like records?
Oh yeah,
I have
absolutely.
I have to send you my my fourth album that I just made a vinyl of it.
Oh, brilliant.
And yeah, yeah, I'm gonna show it to you later. I have it here. I'm in my we actually in my studio space here is my small home studio where I practice and stuff, and I have it here. You're gonna like it. This is the album High Vibration. Is my fourth studio album, and there you hear a lot of the jazz influences that I have because I've been arranging bras and all those things, and it's all part of the songwriting. And for me, when I listen back, I mean that is five full albums now, and I think two EPs and countless singles. I could never count all the singles because there's so many over the years. But when I listen back, I can clearly find like that there are kind of themes that always coming back. Is always me um thinking about my heritage, is always me trying to find, to combine and find my way, where I am, who I am, how can I find my own place and space in the world. This is always me on a search as a female artist, how to feel in, how to fit in this profile, and what I like and what I don't like. I've been playing around with that, like, you know, certain ways of sensual writing and all those kind of things, which is kind of difficult because there are so many boxes and people want to put you in a box, especially as you're a person of color. You already have a box, especially when a person of color living in Germany, there already is a box for you, and you better be in there, and they close it. Um, so I've been always trying to figure out where I am, and I can see this um, line going through all my creative process until today. There will always be something where I can say, yes, I wrote this line and I would write it exactly today. On my very first album, there's a song called Demain, which is a French word for also tomorrow. It's funny to me because recently I just released a song called Tomorrow. Um, but there I was like my younger self would write something and express something super similar, because there I'm saying um whatever it is, the simple things are also hard to get, and the precious things too. But everything is possible for yourself if you put your love to it. And now we sing, like, people ask me why I smile, and I say, well, what can I say? Life ain't easy today. I feel blue, but I know I will be happy tomorrow. My love will lead the way. There are songs that I wrote, lyrics that I wrote over the years that I'm still living with, that I'm still feeling. Um, there is a song called The African Way. It's the first song where I included spoken word, because there is a poem in the end that I added over a dub and drumming. And then I didn't do this for the longest time. I don't know why. Now this is coming back. Now I totally feel like I want to recite over, over music I'm creating. But there in this poem, for me, it's so powerful. But the whole song has lyrics that it's a reflection about identity and all those things. And I still feel exactly like this today. And not that I did not grow, because if you say I still feel these things today, but I can understand the person I've been there. And I am actually very proud of my younger self, because I've been concluding in a very honest way and I didn't hide. And I think this is probably one of the essential parts in my own personal um, creative journey, that I really try to be as raw and real as can be. This sometimes is not pretty. It's not pretty for myself, because I really have to face um, things about myself, like my fears. I have to face my fears. I have to face my insecurities, all those kind of things. But this is what makes art interesting for me. I don't need the polished stuff. The same when I'm reading someone, I love the immediate emotion. Everybody can edit something to death and then it's perfect, and wow, sounds amazing. But this is not what I personally want to achieve for myself, and it's also not what I like in other people. I like the raw and the real, and I don't mind. It can be even rough and even rude. This is all fine, as long as you a real um, human soul. This is why I'm also not very how can I say, mm, I'm not afraid of AI, because for me it's always about the feeling. And I fully believe that human being, or all living, actually is reacting on frequencies and vibrations, and machines just don't have the kind of vibration and frequency. So I have the feeling um, we can still grow, we still connect. You and I, we connect right now as we talk. So just connected to writing, that is a human essence.
I use this little theme or this little cliche, I guess. If it rains today, the sun will shine tomorrow. But I use it both in a sad way and in a happy way. So on one part, I write a poem where the male character and the woman character, they were happy, and then the male character says, life was so great, and we will always say, if it rains today, the sun will come out tomorrow, because they were together. But then in another poem, where it's a rupture poem and she's no longer there, the guy says, I just need to know how to live empty without the person that fills me, knowing that if it rains today, the sun will come out tomorrow. But it's meaningless. It's so sad. So words can mean can the same words can mean two totally different things. And it's one of the things that's interesting about the way you write in the background too, because of your heritage. And for folks who are not familiar with some of the background that Zoe has, um, you know, uh, part of her heritage is Liberian. And if you don't know history, one of the things that I find so interesting about Liberia is this interesting project, right, of like American African Americans going back to Africa and like trying to build a country, and a whole project of building a whole new society, and like that's got to do something to like the psyche and the culture of a people, right? And then you're
Yeah,
in
but I'm
now.
telling you one thing, that I am not uh, my people are not from those. African Americans going back to Liberia
Oh,
and
interesting.
really of those old tribes. And it really does something to the people too, because there have been people that was not empty land.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
there have
Yeah.
been people. I am a Vi, um, a proud daughter of the tribe of the Vi, and we've been there ever since. And then those people coming back and they've been giving the land. So that again, that is kind of, they've been, again, first they've been taken from Africa, brought to America, and then brought back. But there have been people there. There
Right.
have been people, there have been culture, there was something there, and this was basically part of the whole conflict that blew up Liberia after a
Yes.
while. And we
Yes.
had this terrible civil for so many years. And yeah, but it does something to culture, of course. It does something to people. What it does to me to be um, born in Africa and then raised in Germany. My father is German, but I was born in Liberia. And the funny thing is, I've learned how African I am here in Germany because there it was a school I went to. There'd been like probably like 9 people of color in the whole school, in the entire school. That was a Waldorf school. That would be a school meaning from first grade, primary school until you graduate. So 10, this is not a lot. So imagine how much people will. There
Oh,
was
we.
no blend in. There was like it always like sticking out. Whatever I did, even I really tried to blend in, it didn't work out. So I had to find my way, and this was my whole upbringing being like this. I've been most of the times I've been um there was no group, there was no community. That was me and then all the others. And I found my own group, my tribe really in music. I've like just very few people that I have from me growing up. Everybody else came when that was clearly that I will be an artist, that I am an artist, and I knew this very early. But it changed my world to, because I think in music, it really doesn't matter where you come from. Nobody cares, it's like all about what you do in creativity in general. I noticed this when I'm with creatives. Um, we all don't care what you have, what you do, what you can do. If you can play the bass, okay, great, you're in. If you're not good enough, you're not good enough. Or dancers, you have those, it's I think the only thing you can actually compare like being a professional musician is being a professional in sports.
Yeah.
If
Mhm.
it's the same dedication and kind of a nerd like um laser focus that you need to have. You just practice, 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 no matter what everybody's going out. No, you practice because you have to do that, all those things, or you want to figure it out. So it's not there. Or me, even today, you have no idea. Sometimes I like my mind is wandering off because someone said something in a conversation and it just triggers an idea and the whole process begins. It's like really, I am never not creating. It's like I am always constantly working on something. And it's funny how it all blends together. And it's funny that I always start with the same thing. I start writing. This is the first thing I do in the day. I write something out there. I often feel like I'm creating lyrics in my head already. So I'd only have to write them down. They are there. They've been forming. When I try to analyze this process, it really is a long process that I've been thinking about something for the longest time, not paying so much attention, but I've been processing something, and then it kind of forms, and then I just really have to be quick to sit down and write it down. If it comes along with music, and this happens sometimes, and then I better be fast at my piano because then it's difficult to describe. Is then I hear the whole entire song unfolding inside of me. So I hear the music, I know exactly the words, and I just get really impatient because I sometimes know, okay, it needs to go a certain way. I can hear and feel it already. I just, miss one word or one note that it's not what I wanted, not what I felt to fully express how I feel. And this can be intense, and then sometimes it's like really, it's like a rush. I'm in a zone, and then just out, out, out. And then there are other songs or pieces that just come. with time. There are some songs that I been, especially one song, I think about this, I think since 17 years, and it's not longer than, I think it's 4 bars till now. And I always think maybe it does not need more because it describes this feeling. And you can probably, because you're living in Washington, right? So you have season, a season change. So you know how it feels when after a long winter, you have the first really warming sunbeams and you go like this. And then you look around, and wherever you are, you see dogs and kids and old people and like everybody doing exactly the same, face turned towards the sun. So this is a momentum that I think it's so relatable for so many people. So the whole song is basically just 4 bars only about this feeling. And maybe it doesn't need more.
Songs are like a site. Like it doesn't matter the language of the genre. It's got its meaning, and it just vibrates with you.
Exactly. But you know exactly when I tell you after a long winter, because you know how a long winter can feel like, and then the first warm sunbeams, and you know this exactly the feeling, and everybody who's been surviving winters, I say surviving because for me winter is kind of an issue. Um, they know exactly this feeling. And you see the dogs do the same thing, cats do the same. They're searching for this little, sunbeam in the room and they just lay in there and they're like, it's this. But this is probably the unfinished song that I write forever. Maybe I will leave it there. Maybe it will just stay 4 bars until the end of times. But for me, it's perfect.
Awesome. One thing that when I was doing research with your work and sort of understanding why I like you so much and how it talks to mine is the work that you do with inside of an artist, the whole work, the whole project you did. I wanted to talk a little bit about it, and the reason why I wanted to talk to you about it is because I wanted to explain to people that the way I got to write the way I write is going back to your upbringing in music. So my whole life was very structured writing, but I studied literature, and I always wanted to write pieces that were more fiction and poetry, and I had a lot of it, but it was just like, you know, at home, like I never share with anybody. And the time came for me to do it. I did it the way I understood the world. I understood. I do strategic planning. I do my mapping, and then I roll it out. And then I say to people, the way I write is simple. This is what I know, and right in the middle is what I write about because that's all I can do. Because in my space, I cannot make up things. I'm not supposed to lie, right? So I
Yes.
cannot talk about stuff I don't know about. And so I wanted to share that with people because I did not learn how to write to then write. I just wrote the way I know how to write. And on your work, on when you talk about inside of an artist, you do that so well. You express or you explain the whole process, the whole creative process as a product, like a word product itself, and then you share that with other people, and you make all that private work, you make it public.
Um, well, I started this because I really felt in my journey as an artist that I am not good in listening to teachers, right? I'm not good in obeying rules. I'm not good in and just following something. I always been someone that I need to find out myself. But what I've always loved and what I've always needed was someone I could turn to, ask questions, who would give me a real and honest answer, kind of help me find my way instead of just telling me you must do it like this and that. What I'm doing with Inside of an Artist, I am opening up, and I'm always saying this, I am just sharing of my experience, of my very personal point of view, how I feel about things, and I'm asking myself questions, and I'm inviting everybody to ask themselves questions to really um, think with me and then think for themselves. And I want to build more of a community. And it takes me by surprise how many. Um, watching, tuning in. If I'm late one day, because sometimes I am late because I'm super busy, or Sundays, if I'm not posting until Sunday, they're like already writing me. So Zoe, where are you? You know, we need you. It's like they're really growing a community. And so much of the feedback I'm getting or questions they ask is really like a sign how lost people are in a world where you don't find anybody really talking to you, or um, artists would have to represent themselves, so they only represent a very polished version of what it means to be an artist. And I'm there like, okay, now you wrote your song, finally you put a little money aside and want to go to a studio. How do you actually prepare to go to a studio when you've never done it? How do you keep your voice in shape? And it's not like, oh, you have to be like la 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 all the time. No, you need to drink a lot of water, but nobody's going to tell you. And then I'm seeing interviews of like some big people, and they're like, just okay, you just got to follow your dream. You just got to be like this and that. Well, it's very easy to say that when you already made millions. But if you have to work on 2 day jobs and you still really need your art to come out, you don't need to hear that. You need someone who will help you to say, okay, uh, if you really want to do that, try to prioritize. Maybe you don't need this and that, but you really need to practice, because practice makes perfect. You really have to do it. As people have writer's blocks, you as a writer, you know how people can have a blockage there. And for me, it's like this: in the moment we begin a communication, in the moment someone is there, you have someone you can tell you why. And I ask, why can't you? And I listen, and I do this even when I'm there. I just open the space. Then you already have everything you can write about, because you tell me, "Mm, you feel like limited in your life. You don't have time for yourself. You need time to breathe. Um, you don't even recognize yourself in the mirror." This is already your first verse. Or if you put it into literature, this is already your introduction of the theme that you want to write about. But people are not talking about this. I mean, yes, people, there are a million people that talk about great things. I can just say, like, from the community that I know, that we all trained to show a perfect face. It's showbiz, so you better be there. You look proper. You just say the essentials. You don't let nobody see your mess. You don't let nobody see your insecurities. And this is exactly what I'm doing. There are episodes where I'm sitting there. I had a bad cold, but the people been demanding, so I'm there with a huge scarf, and my voice is so rusty, like an old nail. But I still, I felt like I really need to be there for my people, because it feels like me, I'm like filling the space of like a big sister kind of voice, or the auntie you could talk to. There are a lot of super young people, and they all have the same feeling. They it's this the music business, or the business when you're an artist, demands you to be such a show off person, which is in a big contradiction, because a lot of artists are really introverts. It's only coming out in art. Even myself, even I can sit here and talk, I'm an introverted person. I am totally not when I'm on stage. When I'm not stage afraid at all. When I'm on stage, this is like my natural habitat. This is where I'm long to be. I'm free. I do whatever. I don't care. Even embarrassing things happen. This is, I was made for this. Um, but the very first time I was singing in public, that was in jazz school, I had to turn my back to the public, because I was so shy. Because it's different when you play the piano, because you have a huge instrument in front of you, but in the voice you cannot hide anything in the voice. I had the feeling people could just completely feel my soul. This what made me turn around. I was able to turn then in the middle of the song, and it was okay. um, but this introvert feeling, and then now you have to promote all the time, you have to show up all the time. Even I just recently made an episode about this, where I said, well, you have to promote your work, but it feels so weird. You're sitting there like, hey everybody, I'm this and that, my new song is out there, go and listen and click the link. Oh wow. while the song that you made probably been something you've been living with for a long time that is precious to your heart, and then you're sitting there and behaving like a clown. This is not for everybody. And how to find a way that this works for you, because yes, if you want to have a career in music or in any kind of those things, you will have to do the work. And it's possible to find a way that it does not feel awkward, that you don't feel like a complete um, really an idiot promoting all those things, keep on saying. So I am really there, real and raw and authentic as can be, even if I'm not comfortable or I look funny sometimes, you know, because I just come from practicing or I've been with my kids and I know, oh my God, I still have to do it. So I just set it up and I'm writing my scripts, like mostly I'm writing a lot of my ideas down, and then I speak freely. So this is not a written content. So this is really like me in conversation. Sometimes there's someone there that I don't feel stupid myself, like speaking into the void in a camera. I have someone that I can actually address my conversation to. And yeah, I'm super passionate about this work with Insights of an Artist, and it actually led me to something that I am so excited about, because I've been doing this longer than a year now. And while I've been really putting my thoughts to paper and then speak about all those things, I started to develop like a bigger project. This is a creative workbook journal. It's called Understand, Overstand, and Understand, and it really is like a friendly guideline that leads you through the whole creative process. I chop those creative process into pieces and describe every chapter by itself, like the challenges, the chances of this part, where you start, how it keeps going, how it feels when you're in the zone. Then you have a finishing part, and then it's like once something is done. So that is like in 6 chapters, and I I took so much time. I wrote like journal prompts and work exercises and long texts about also personal reflections. And of course, one part that I really like the most is affirmations for all those parts, because the creative process itself is always the same. If you cook a meal, or if you plan a script that you want to write, or if I'm writing a song, everything is the same. It's one creative process. So it begins, then you have the idea, then you're actually doing it. Um, then you have to finish. This is where you sometimes maybe get already a little bit tired, but you have to do it. Maybe you plan to, like, paint your living room, and you wanted to do like a tropical something. So you had the great idea. Um, you've been full of fire. You went to buy the paint and everything. Then you're actually doing it and you like the painting. And then comes the finishing part where, like, oh gosh, I still have to clean up and, you put the furniture back in, but you still have to do it. Otherwise, it's not complete. And then of course, is the last chapter would be where, I call it the afterglow, is where you're there, we actually did that. And sometimes this is a bittersweet moment, because you've been carrying an idea for a long time, and you've been working with something, you've put in your passion and energy inside, and then it's over. Your book is released, the music is out there, your living room has a new design, and you sit there, you enjoy it, you like it, but you're also exhausted, and it takes a while to really land with you and acknowledge that you did something great. Yeah, this is my last baby that I just completed, and it's gonna come out next week on I think the 23rd. Yeah, that's Monday the 23rd. It will be starting with the ebook download on my website, that is zoe-mazah.com. And then, um, well, already doing the next thing, doing an audiobook for the same thing, and reading the chapters, and there are pictures inside that I created. And it's so, I mean, I'm full of this, and it all started with Insights of an Artist. And I very much believe, especially today, the human connection is the most important. And whatever we do, if we want to encourage other people to feel good in their own lives and in their journeys, it's absolutely necessary to really open up, to make it a visible and feelable and reliable process that other can feel you and feel themselves and mm, also feel less alone.
It's palpable to see what you just explained. The way you manage the project and the way you just explain it, it's very much like what I will call a great modern coach. And the difference between a classic coach and a great modern coach to me is that a classic coach will teach you what he or she knows and up to a point, like and then but he'll always know more than you. What you're doing, was really interesting, and what really great coaches do in sports is they teach you everything that they know, and then they get you up to one point, and then the new athlete, to take it to the next level. And but that only happens when the coach really opens up and says, "This is my blueprint. This is how I did it." And little things like, "This is how much water I drank
Yes.
to prep." Like all those little steps is what makes the difference, right? It's not about, and I always tell people, it's not about wanting to do something. It's not about desiring to do something. It's not even about hard work, right? Because if hard work were the driver for success,
Yes.
then people working at a supermarket and then go leaving the supermarket to work at McDonald's, they will be more successful than me. They work way harder than me. So hard work is not alone is not the thing. There are real specific steps you follow. So I really appreciate when you do that, and you teach others um, how to translate best practices into their everyday creation work. So like the practice itself becomes the work piece itself. And with that, I was wondering if I can bother you. I One thing that's interesting that you teach or you talk or you share with others is how the difference between the written word, and how that transforms into music, because like I don't know how to do that.
Yes.
And
This
I
is
wanted to
the
maybe you can
yes.
sort of help us understand sort of that whole process. How does that work?
It really is one of the things that I think about a lot because it took me a while to only share written word without music, right? And I was wondering why. And I think I'm telling you one thing, there is a big difference between a poem that I've write or an essay that I've write and a song. And I figured just lately I figured out why. A poem um, has a different rhythm, and I don't mean rhythm in the cadences that you place the words, but if I'm writing a song, right, I have a structure of where I introduce something. I might have a verse, I might have a bridge that is like a opening, you're taking it to the next level, while in the verse I'm telling the beginning of my story, then I take it to the next level, and then I will conclude in a chorus or hook line or refrain, however word you want to call it, right? um and in the chorus, I have to conclude and be very much on point, saying, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I conclude there and I will repeat it over and over again. And then I will have the second verse and I will have my second verse, and then we'll have the chorus coming again and maybe even double the chorus. So I'll be singing over and over again the same thing. So if I'm writing a poem, that would be completely stupid because in a written word, if I keep on repeating one sentence again and again and again, or even make a rhyme or doing something like I'm having a beautiful line, whatever, the morning has broken and the sun makes me feel whatever, and then I go la 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 la. I can definitely not write this, but I can sing it. And when I sing it, it makes sense because music gives you um, two more dimensions. One is melody and rhythm, and the second you get more is the emotion that those elements, melody and rhythm, will give you. And I don't have that when I have a written word. The written word also changes once you read it out loud. This is why there are authors like, for example, Miss Rowling, who wrote the whole Harry Potter things, right? It's so good because even when you read it loud, it just draws you in. You can actually read it loud. And there are other people that are great reads, but once you read it out loud, it starts to become, like staccato and not so fluent. So it's not so easy to follow. For me, though, that I'm doing both, I figured out there are some songs that actually started with a lyric that began in my heart, and they feel like a poem to me. And in the moment I make it a song, I will add on of my knowledge, saying, okay, I'm landing here. I'm landing right here. My recent release, a song called Tomorrow, is a perfect example because it goes, I'm moving on unbothered by the turbulences of life. My heart shall hold no sorrow because I know there'll always be. The music here will give you space that your head already knows the rhyme would go somewhere, right? Um, Once the song plays and I'm landing in the end on my hook line, on my chorus, I will repeat, there will always be tomorrow. So if that would end only being a written piece, mm, I would just say there will always be tomorrow. Now it's music. Now it's a song. So I have to say, there will always be tomorrow. And I add, where all my dreams come to life tomorrow. Because this is what the music is giving me. It's giving me the chance to say something that if it's only written, be super cheesy,
Right.
and kind of, becomes random. Those songs where they have la 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 phrases, in the super famous comes to my mind, Lady Gaga, Shallow. Everybody knows the song. In the shall la 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 low, you can absolutely sing that. You could never just read that because it's just, no,
Right. No,
that's a big difference.
yeah. No. And as you speak, it does make me think about when I'm drafting a poem. I try so hard to avoid the cacophony of using the same line and the same word, but it's necessary in music, right? It's necessary to have the hooks, to have the if you're gonna do an A B sort of like song,
Absolutely.
you need to have it. But in the culture or the world of written poetry, then it just doesn't work.
Telling you one thing, it's funny, and as you are a person who writes a lot, you will figure out that the moment you would put your mind to it, you just changing color, like I said in the beginning, right? It's like you paint in blue and then you pick up the red pen. Uh, you can actually just change and it's gonna work, and you will adjust pretty easy once you understand um, what it requests. And it's not so complicated. You just have to know your own voice, and then you have to trust it. And this is one thing I've learned, and I'm super happy about it, and actually also excited because I've been writing a lot of songs in my life. And then now that I'm writing more also longer pieces, essays, and all those things, I figured I can completely trust my intuition where I'm going to. I know when to end, for example, or I know when I'm losing it, when I'm just going around, around, around. This is something I just practice in songwriting because in songwriting, you lose people in a minute. You like boring super fast. So when I write, I learn mm, to trust my intuition that what I have to say is what I have to say. When I feel it, I will follow this. I'm not going to doubt it a million times. Even my editing process, I'm reading here on Substack a lot of people editing forever. Um, when I'm writing something, I write it and I know I know where I'm going. I just I follow it. I have a calling. It's a clear feeling that I learned to trust. And this is one thing that I spoke about inside of an artist as well. You can practice this. You can practice to trust your own writer's voice, your own songwriter's voice, your own, even your speaker's voice, even of course, your vocal voice. Uh, but you can train this by doing it a lot. You know, the more you do it, you will find it. And then maybe you think, oh, I wasn't able, no, today I'm not able to write like I did like back in the days. Well, then you start again, you try it, and you will see your creativity has a muscle memory, and it's not other than riding a bike. Maybe you're like a little bit wobbly in the beginning, but your body remembers how to ride a bike, and it's just the same with a creative um, output that you have. And I always encourage, like, you know, in my community, I encourage you, like, do it, you know, don't just find excuses why you're not doing it, because there always are. I don't have I also don't have no time, but I make the time because it's essential for me to do. But I don't have time, or I don't feel a certain way, or I'm not inspired. What is inspiration? You don't need to be inspired. You know, then write about your boredom. Write about that you're not inspired, but just do it. It's a matter of you doing it. And every person who ever did like really into sports, they will tell you you don't want to train every day and your muscles hurt and you're tired and you're really not feeling it and you still have to go running because you know you're preparing for a match or something. You still have to do it, you know. And if you don't do it, you lose it, you know, you lose your wins. And creativity is the same. The more you do it, the better you will get, the easier you will flow. And yes, of course, there are days when nothing goes right. And it's also training to learn to not judge yourself for that. You don't blame yourself for that. I mean, I can't tell you how ridiculous I sometimes am. I'm like there, I practice, I really want to do something, and then I lose it and I can't get nothing done. And I still there, and for 2 hours I practice, and like, oh, I really wanted to write on something and I had an idea, but I couldn't get it done. I've learned to say, okay, it's okay. It's part of the process because maybe it was not fully developed inside. This is why it couldn't come out, or it was not the right moment. But I can also create the moment, but I will definitely miss the moment when I never show up.
My brain went in so many places as you were speaking. So I'll try to summarize some things. One is, when you mention this endless obsessive process of editing for something to be perfect, I enjoy what you say because it made me think. I was trying to think of like what songs are work so well in music but will be horrible as a poem. And the first thing that came to mind, you might know him, Meatloaf. There's one song that's very famous. He says the same thing like 5 times. I think he
Yeah.
says something like, I told you everything I possibly can. No. He says, maybe we can talk all night. Okay, I got it. And then he goes, but that's not getting us that ain't getting us nowhere. I told you everything I possibly can. There's nothing left inside of me. It's the same thing. I could never
Yes.
write down a poem because it will never work, and I will probably spend too many hours trying to make it perfect. And I think often people who write do that because they want to. Part of them wants to please their audience, right, the readers, and they want to make them happy, and the way they think they can make them happy is by impressing them with a beautiful shiny piece, when often it is possible that what the reader connects with and what they want is that rawness, that real
Hmm.
feeling that they have. And I have always envied musicians and songwriters because they are allowed to themselves to be vulnerable like that, and they're allowed themselves to sort of experiment with those feelings and just open up like a book, which is often something that they don't do. But it makes me wonder how much of that deals with your identity. And what I mean by that is, when I think of you, I think of you having so many different identities because you live in the world. You don't live in Germany. You don't, you live in the world. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But how do you go about, or what do you do when your creative identity is cannot be contained in like only one single thing, like a music style or a language or what's expected of you as Zoe the performer? How do you handle all that? Because I feel like you do that really well and you teach that to people. But I'm just something I wanted to ask you.
Well, I think in the very moment, right, that where you have the calling or you follow the calling and say, this is what I do. I am an artist. You've got to be careful what kind of persona you're going to choose for yourself because you're going to live with it.
Hmm.
Um, there are famous examples of people who've been creating a very artificial persona because they wanted to protect their privacy. Um, so once they're on a stage or when they show up for whatever art they do, they are this. In their private life, they're someone else. Um, the way I am, how I feel about everything, and also how I write and how I express my emotions, I knew this is not me. First of all, I'm not a very much of a person who loves to dress up all the time and being full of makeup and blah blah blah. I I couldn't care less, you know. I love to dress up and yeah, there's stage and that's crazy and it's cool. But most of the times, I'm like completely, you know, putting on something to not. My kids would say to not walk around naked. Um, and so it was clear to me that my persona as an artist needs to be me. I need to be reliable to myself because I could not always put on a mask. It's the opposite for me. I always wanted to, and I still want to get rid of all those masks that I was forced to wear in my life. I want to be myself as much as I can because I feel there I am the strongest. And I also learned when I really open up, I'm a very sensitive person. I'm very easy to get hurt because I just like very emotional, right? But the more I open up, the more I'm I'm really standing here saying this is myself. Um, my what they called weakness or what been presented to me being a weakness became a strength because you can blame me for being me because there's only me, you know, there is no next Zoe Massa there. So how are you going to tell me that I'm not the perfect in who I am, because I totally am. And I think this is what makes it possible for me also to do so many things. I mean, I'm filming my own videos, I'm editing my own things, I'm creating visual works, I write, I sing, I have my band, all those things. And it's always me because I've been never trying to be something else. I've been never trying to be like a certain kind of a diva. I do have diva parts inside of me for sure. And I let them come out once in a while. And I do have, you know, um, this and that, but it's all very much me. And I think this is important as an artist, as a creator, choose well because you have to live with what you present out there. Um, Again, the famous example, Lady Gaga, because she just really is a famous example. She's been building this artificial personality for herself. And it's amazing to see how she got rid of it again, you know, and now she's there and she's herself in a different way. And but she needed this to become who she is right now. But a lot of other people, they get lost there, you know, when you've always been, you know, the super cool and the tough guy, but you are not really this much of a tough guy, you know. How are you going to hold this forever? It's exhausting. And this work as an artist is super exhausting. It's amazing and beautiful, but it also requests a lot because you have to give a lot, and you can't do this halfway. You can't be a little bit of an artist if you're an artist or you're not an artist. You can do things because like you can be a musician or love making music just like being a writer and love writing. Mm. And you are this while you're also doing something else, and the moment still shifts when this is all you do. You're not less if this is not your full-time job. But still, even if you have like three different, I've been working on three different jobs the longest time while I already had been making music, right? Um, but then the sacrifice is even harder because then you're up all night, or in my terms, I've been up like super early in the morning. Even now, every day I get up super early in the morning because I do have children and I need to get my time in to do my writing and all those stuff. Before I wake them up, I've been already working for 2 hours mostly. So it's a lot of sacrifice you're doing, and you hopefully do it with pleasure most of the times, and you get a lot back. But choose well what kind of person you are creating, what kind of persona you are creating, and if it's actually necessary. I said for myself, mm, I can, for example, I can speak about most everything in my life. Um, I had to go through so many interviews, especially when my music career took off and took flight. And then they always wanted to talk about my mixed heritage of my German father and my African mother. And this wasn't an easy subject for me. And I really didn't want to talk about this. So I had to find a way of speaking about my personal upbringing, mm, and still keeping what I wanted to have be private, private. And I found a way for myself to be me and still have a clear boundary. And I think it's just important for everybody who's putting themselves out there, even writers here on Substack, everybody, um, to know what they present, because also maybe some people always want to be funny and they are funny, and maybe you're super sad inside. And if you're just hiding something so hard, it will become an issue over time. That's how I feel.
Right? We are a series of identities that was built through our experience about that. But also at the same time, it makes me wonder, you know, the value proposition that being yourself brings to the world is it's so much more impactful. Actually, it's a good example. My son, for example, when he was a kid, he used to say, "Dad, I'm a panda," and I said, "Why?" He just came home one day, and I said, "Why?" He goes, "Well, because I'm a little indigenous, I'm a little black, I'm a little Chinese, I'm a panda." He was trying to figure out what he was, and I said, "Yeah, you're a panda. It's good. Be a panda." And he had that awareness of, you know, uh, there's a song in Spanish that talks about. It says something like, "I'm not from here, and I'm not from there, and my identity
Mhm.
card is happiness." So like,
Oh,
and he
yes,
was like, "Oh," he's like,
beautiful.
"That's like me." He used to like he. It was interesting to see how young people, children of this generation, of his generation, who have had parents who share different heritages, whether from different countries, different ethnic backgrounds, different races, and they are, so sort of the product of that mix or whatever, how they interpret their presence and their identity, because
Yes.
they are creating a new peoples, right? They're not, like you're not, if you're Chinese, indigenous, black, and Spanish, you are not any, but you are all. Or if you are, Jewish and African or whatever, you're not either or. You are all, but you also unique. You are your own self.
I always say, you know what? You're the upgrade.
Right, right. You're like, yeah.
Like,
It's
you
funny you
have the
said that.
phone
Yeah.
up version, like you have the old phone, and then you have the upgrade. That is the next version, the update and the upgrade. And I
Right.
feel like this is it, I think this is a lot of we people here that are doing stuff like we're the upgrade already, and then I will be the update of my own person in the next time that I've been growing more into myself and I'm learning more into myself.
And we say this, but it's not true. I think the world has always been evolving into different things, and I know. I think the difference and the beauty of now is that there are people like you and people, maybe a generation prior with like two-tone ska and other fusions where they were celebrating who they were and sort of saying to the world, "Look at what can be created when your white mates and your black mates get together, like like the Englishman and the jam English, get together to create beautiful things. Like to show people that beauty is something really special. But then I think of growing up in America. It was always interesting to me how people always thought, oh, we are the melting pot, and they will say like, oh, a Latino, from like people from Spain are the white Latinos, and it's like, what are you talking about? You go to Europe, they're international villages. Like everywhere you go to a major city, there are all kinds of
Yeah.
people learning from each other, getting along. I tell people, if anything, they are so much more, you know, ahead of us in the way they see the world, because they embraced it, and they don't say, okay, you are this, you're that, but rather through through experiences from the past that were not as
Yes.
good because there was war before, to be able to sort of grow up and say, okay, we're going to embrace this world. Like I lived in Spain before and in Italy, but and a little bit on Italy, but more in Spain. I see this more, where they always have an interesting relationship with the background as people. Because to describe a person from Spain, the worst description is to say is a Hispanic, it's a white Spanish speaking person. Because a Spanish person, really, if you ask somebody from Spain, is somebody who is a mix of Celt, Jews, Arabs, Romans, and Greeks. Maybe a lot more too. But that's what makes that's what makes that particular group so beautiful, right? And then now we have people who are coming from from Africa, and now you have like Black Basque people who are bringing adding to the whole texture of the country and the culture, and people that come from America and China. Like it like what you're saying, it's an upgrade of something already beautiful. But to be able to have the courage to be real and to be yourself, and to be able to expose that, it's a big challenge, and it takes time to develop it. So I think that the work that you do in your artist project really leads way for people to allow themselves to have the courage to say, you know what, I can do this too. I'm going to roll the dice, and I'm going to try to be me, and I can still, I still want to impress my readers. I still want to come with a clean product, but the process itself, like that, I'm going to enjoy that process of being me. I written one time that I had spent so much time with myself. I kind of like me now. It's
Oh,
it's
that's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. And it's great that you can say that. Um, for myself, if I can only um, reach one person, if I really, and I mean that, if I can only reach one person and be there in a moment, and with whatever I say, sing, or write, help them to keep going on the way of being themselves, and proudly stand up being themselves, and feeling themselves as being enough. That's enough for me, and that's the biggest success. And I can say this from everything I would say whenever, on whatever platform and whatever scenario, if it's private or in public. I would say that to every piece that I've been writing. I would say that, especially also with every song that I've wrote, that I'm singing, if I can reach one person, also with music in a concert, if you're playing, and sometimes there's a lot of people, sometimes just a few people, but like festivals, there's a lot of people sometimes. But if you reach this one person and they can take something home, they get this spark of encouragement to keep on going. That's all I want. Nothing more, nothing else. And it's part of my mission. I always say I'm on a mission. I always say music is love, and love needs to grow. Love will always expand, and love doesn't need anything back. We don't want anything back. You want to give that. And if I can add on to make this world a place with higher frequencies and higher vibrations and more connection and more community, and hold the space for people who really need it, because sometimes we all need someone that is just holding the space. You don't even need to know this person personally, but when you feel it, I'm deeply grateful and blessed if I can be part of this. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to speak positivity into existence, not only into mine, but also share it with the world. And the song that I have out there right now, I'm saying this in the end as spoken word. I manifest positivity. I see the light in you and I feel it in me. Life doesn't come with a guarantee, only the guarantee that it will end indeed. So all those things, I mean this, I feel it. It's from the depth of my soul. And I hope I can share this. And I hope that people there now even listening and watching, and even I hope one is out there, they can feel it and take something with them and feel like they can keep going. And then I believe in this, like all of we have phases in life. Maybe today you're the one needing and you need to hear it. And if you had the blessing to receive help when you've been in need, one day you will meet some next person and they will need help. And because you had this experience yourself, you will give. This is how love grows. This for me is lived spirituality. This is for me the positive mindset that I am talking about. And I believe in it. I stand for this. I work for this. I dedicated myself as an artist and also as a person in my private life to living accordingly.
Right, but that only comes across if you come from a place of sincerity, right? And Mandy actually made a comment about that as you were speaking. She says, if you try to do it like someone else, it's not going to work. The beauty of work is what makes it unique to you. What makes it unique to you, and what you're, as I read that and as I think about what you're saying, really, it only works because it's sincere, because
Yes,
it's real, and I think that's what separates, like you said earlier, that's what separates AI from us humans, right? You can,
totally.
yeah, like next to me, there's a picture of Guernica. I Without the story of the Nazis helping Franco kill so many people in Spain, and blowing up the town of Guernica. Without that history, that painting means nothing. AI can create that, but it doesn't mean anything. Same thing
Yes.
with, you know, AI cannot create Bob Marley music that will liberate nations. It can do that. You need the story behind the story. You need the person behind the story for that to
I
mean
think
something.
it's interesting because it it can actually create um, amazing music. I've been in some studios where we've been testing like as beta testers like AI music tools, and it's mind blowing. It really was mind blowing. The funny thing though is even it sounds perfect, everything, and even I can make a hit, right? The thing that is missing, that you're missing this certain um it's a frequency. It really is. It's something that is just that I was sitting there and it was so good. It was so good. Like everything was made perfect and really great song. Everything, lyrics with depth and like really well thought of. The voice that been created, fantastic. And still, there was something that was not matching my emotion, and was nothing in this song I could find. And then after I learned that it was created with AI, a fully AI set, I said, okay, this is why the feeling didn't reach me. It might, it might work for a lot of things, but I think in the moment, for example, when you're heartbroken, your heart got broken, you're super sad, and there is music there, and you lean into a song because it fully expresses how you feel. We all probably been there once in our lives, right? This is where the whole thing comes to prove that you will need the frequency of another person. Otherwise, you would never have the same emotional bond. I'm absolutely sure.
There are these flies. They're born in the daytime. They made the as in the like mid morning, whatever, but then they die before the night comes. It's like AI, right? Like it's like a fly that doesn't know about the night times. How can you explain AI about the night if they never see if it's never seen it? Like you need to experience the night.
Yeah.
If you don't know it, you cannot replicate it. You cannot copy. You cannot relate it. It's just not relatable. So that
And I don't think it's necessary, I don't think it's necessary. I am not one of those AI haters, not at all. I think it's great, and it's there, it makes no sense just being complaining about that it's there, because it's there anyways. Um, I just am very sure it will not going to replace certain things. This is why I'm not afraid of, it will not replace the human touch, the human soul, and it's not there for this also. It doesn't want to be this. It's something by itself. It's not there to replace certain things inside. And I think it's a challenge. You can be more human, open up more, be more vulnerable, show yourself, be real, be as human, as messy as you can be, cry all the time if you feel like it. Don't hide. Um the less mask you wear, um the less easy you are to copy, because it's unpredictable. You don't know how I'm going to feel. Maybe I'm going to start crying right now. You don't know that. Maybe you would predict, okay, this is a scenario set, like we're talking, everything is fine. But maybe something you said, or like you've been talking about Guernica, and you don't know if I've been there and saw the picture, and it brings up some sad memories about my grandma who was there with me. So I will start crying. So be as real as can be, and you're good to go.
right. And I'm with you that I'm not against technology, right? Because I think about, for example, the Beatles when they created the studio albums, there was no tracks to do what they wanted to do. But because they did that, then fast forward to Michael Jackson, he has the technology to do that live on stage, which is something that
Oh
Beatles could have
yeah.
never done. So that's a good use of technology. But you still needed the Beatles. You still needed Michael Jackson's talent. Without that, you just have equipment. Like it's nothing there. So yeah, technology is useful until it's not.
And it's just also fun. Um, I think as a human being, it's a lot of fun to have this chance to do something by yourself. So now, I have a friend who told me, "Oh, I wrote a children's book for my daughter." I said, "Wow, I never knew that you were writing." He said, "No, I didn't do it. I've been prompting my AI." And I said, "Okay, so actually, why did you do it?" He said he really wanted to, and he's telling bedtime stories to his daughter that he's inventing himself, but he does not know how to write anything. So he found himself a way that he still um, keeps his bedtime stories for his child, for her to have it once. He has the plan to give it to her 18th birthday, and she's now 4, right? So what a beautiful thought. And he just found himself a tool how he could do what he wants to express. Great. Here is one woman here, and I admire her work to the bone. And she's a brilliant writer, like really fantastic. One of those voices here that I enjoy the most. Um, she makes videos with AI, and even have people like voices singing what she's writing. She's not a musician. She can still do that. It opens in a whole lot of dimension. It's beautiful. It's fantastic, because it wouldn't be there without this tool. She couldn't explore. Maybe one day she will have real people playing for her. But I'm telling you the other thing, this will be expensive. And now she can do it, and it's not expensive at all. Does not take away. One thing does not take away from the other. And I would be probably one of those that could say, no, I don't like it at all, blah, 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 because I am a songwriter, and AI can write songs, perfect, wonderful, amazing songs. I don't feel haunted or in danger at all, because that's just a different tool. It's for other people.
Right. But you still need a human. It sounds like
Oh,
even those people need a human, right? So because without
yeah.
that, you can't do anything there. Yeah, because I mean, what makes even now what makes the story interesting to me is that there was a motivation by a human to use technology to create something for another human. It's
Absolutely.
that's the only that's the only way it works. A song made by a robot is not interesting at all.
But I do have a question to you,
Uh-oh.
Edwin. Yeah, I wanted to ask you this for the longest time. I always
Sure.
wrote it to you the other day. And it's this. I know that you speak multiple languages, right? And do you feel when you write there is one is closer to your heart, or and do you feel like you have the same writer's voice when you write in Spanish or in English, or is it completely different tone?
I don't know if it was Aristotle or one of those fellows that said, "You are as many people as the languages you speak," and I believe that. Most days, I dream, speak, and process things in English, but there are words and phrases that can only express themselves in another language. You can't. There's an equivalent in one language, but there isn't. And the beauty about English is that you know it is a mix of Anglo-Saxon and French, so it's rich enough to create great things. Actually, I was talking to these two wonderful women yesterday about policy and about some things going on politically here and some decisions around economics and whatnot. And then I said, because they happen to speak Spanish too, I said, pan para hoy, hambre para mañana, which means bread for today, but famine for
But
tomorrow.
for tomorrow, yes.
But like it, if you just said it in English, it's kind of goofy. But it's so power, like it says so much, right? And I could have said, these people are being, a penny wise upon foolish, but it's not the same.
It's
The,
not
the,
the
the
same.
meaning is much, much bigger because you're not being just cheap and dumb. You are creating you actually, when I said in Spanish, for me to be able to say the same thing in English will be something like they're being penny wise and upon foolish. And they're by design creating the commons dilemma that we had during COVID.
Yeah.
I have to say all that to express that little line. It depends, and it also depends on the feeling that I want to express. Because when I say to somebody that I love, you make me better than I was or better than I am in Spanish, it means so much more than I said in English. Or if I say to somebody in Italian, I love you, I have to say it in a very specific word to mean I love you as a brother, I love you as my lover, I love you.
Yes,
And it's so
I
so
get
yeah,
it.
it's very different. I feel fortunate to have that because I feel like I couldn't write the way I write if I didn't have that knowledge.
Don't you think that there are words that just sound better, like in another language, because the sound of the word itself just is closer to what the word means.
Yeah.
I love, for example, the in Portuguese you say saudade for the longing, and the way they say it already carries so much emotion and a kind of a tragic emotion. It doesn't have this in longing. Longing is just longing, but saudade is so, it's a powerful word which brings a different tone. And yeah, I just I was very curious what you would say because I thought you would feel this way because I do feel this way. For me, it's like German, English is almost the same, and I do speak French and understand enough Spanish or even better Italian to get along, and learning Portuguese because my band is in Portugal. So and I've always been interested in languages, and I as an artist found it interesting because once I've been working on a German project, and I wasn't sure if I could actually write the same way in music in German. But then it was super funny because again it was just like um, a flip of my thought, flip of my mind, and I could just transfer my way of expressing into the next language. There was it wasn't difficult though. It,
The
it
the
felt funny at the beginning, but it wasn't difficult. I figured that the way I express has a certain rhythm or a certain melody into it by itself, that I would just follow.
You just made me think of something as you were speaking. That's a better example to answer your language question. Recently, I wrote a poem called 1.6 million minus one, which is about somebody living in DC with 1.6 million people. But when they leave town, the person left behind misses them, like part of them is missing. And I said, we use the word to miss, the verb to miss in English, very casually. So like it means nothing, right? Where in Spanish, me haces falta, like it literally
Yeah,
says like there's a piece of me missing, which
yeah.
is really the feeling that you express when you have that longing or that absence in your physical world. So like I could have said me haces falta, but because I had to write it in English, I had to write a whole poem to explain that whole thing. So it's really hard. But I think it talks a lot about your heritage, like I mean like your heritage of like your whole world, that you can transfer whatever feelings you have in whatever language into one specific language. I think that goes beyond being bilingual or multilingual. I think that's being more multicultural and being really in touch with a series of cultures, so you can say an equivalent expression and feeling of that in the target language that you're trying to convey. It's
You know what
very
I
hard.
think?
It looks easy for
You know
you,
what I,
but it's very difficult.
you know what I actually think? I think it's the it's the habit of really trying to express precisely how I feel. And I notice this of myself when I have in conversations with friends and beloved ones. One is here, you will know. Um, I can be super particular with like a single word. I can like be triggered by one word, and then this word would be heavy on my heart, because if this one word would mean a certain something, I would really need to know if this is exactly the word that is supposed to be there, or if it can be exchanged because it could mean something else. So I can be very much behind those things, because I always have the feeling words hold so much power that I need them to be placed well. I think it's important. Like for me, it's super important. I could be also insecure for days. Like one word could just like completely set me off, because I'm trying to analyze what it really means. And this is probably also part of what you said in a positive way, when you have like all those influences. So it can mean, like you can say, a person is missed, but if you say that in Spanish, like actually like the whole, like the piece of you out of your heart is out there. And when you're aware of how much something can mean, it can change the whole word. You're just saying something casually, but for the other person, that just has more value in words, because it can mean so much more the moment you translate it, you can feel it. So it just opens options. It's like so many possibilities, that I really try to be precise. I'm also finding myself often correcting myself when I've been saying something and I've figured out this was not exactly how it's supposed to feel like, because it does not transfer in however I can feel it or think it and understand it. I need to correct it, because it's where it's whole power. That's why. That's the reason.
Well, and then sometimes the word itself, it only exists in one language. Like for us in English, the word we borrow from German, Schadenfreude. Like
Oh yes.
there's no, you can only use that word. I mean, that is, what I mean. Like there's no other equivalent. Like we had to borrow from the Germans.
And it's so very funny, because why exactly this word? It's not particular that the Germans, it's such a big part of the German culture to be like this. Um, because for example, when you're in Jamaica, the Jamaicans they're super much like this. They laugh, you fall down, you look stupid, they just laugh. It's part of the whole thing. They would make fun of you. I was there, like had my I got stung by a 40, like that is like something like a short scorpio. and my whole leg was swell up to triple the size it was. Everybody was making jokes like, "Oh my God, there she is," with the elephant hood, you know, things like this, and laughing. It's not that it was not compassionate with me, but it still would make fun of you. So Schadenfreude is not just a very German something, but it's so funny that the word does not exist anywhere else.
It also shows that at the end of the day, regardless of where we all from, we're all one human race. Because sometimes
Yes,
we need to borrow something from the Germans, sometimes we need to borrow something from the Jews, sometimes we need to borrow a lot of things from Africa. We need each other. So it's
we
great.
need each other. We do need each other.
Yeah. Now, I know we are in your studio, and I was wondering if I can, I don't know, either maybe sing us a song or play the piano, however you want to see, and then we can sort of say goodbye with just enjoying your art as we say goodbye, and then end our time today, which has been beyond wonderful to me. Thanks. I really enjoy the conversation and just listening to your heart and your brain.
I can only give this back, Edwin. I thank you so much for having me and inviting me, and I hope you keep going. I'm gonna be tuning in, and of course, I'm gonna just turn the camera around, and then walk to my piano. Let me see if I can do that. Turn it on. You can see me, right?
Yes.
Okay, then it's on because let me see. Okay, let me try this. I am going to play a piece of my recent release. The song is called Tomorrow. I've been talking about this before. Is the I'm moving on. I'm bothered by the turbulences of life. My heart shall hold no sorrow, 'cause I know there'll always be. My spirit's high, regardless of all obstacles. My fears subside. My heart shall hold no sorrow, 'cause I know there'll always be tomorrow. Where all my fears come to light. Tomorrow, I rise above the strife. Tomorrow, the light will lead me right. Tomorrow, I manifest positivity. I see the light in you, and I feel it in me. Life doesn't come with a guarantee, only the guarantee that it will end indeed. Until then, live your hopes, live your dreams, dare to be yourself unapologetically. Live a good life, be a good man, be a good woman, stand tall and stand firm. Plant your love like a seed and let kindness lead. Tomorrow is just another chance to be who you're meant to be. So breathe and believe that there will always be tomorrow.
That was wonderful. Thanks so much. I'm sure
Oh,
everybody's
thank you.
applauding on the other side too. Tomorrow will be another day, and it'll be a good day because you are in this world, Zoe. Thanks so much for
I
your
thank you so much.
kindness and your time, and so much. Thank you so much.
I thank you. Take good care. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.